In fact, how he's handling those people now in a live situation affects how they will recover in hospital. The way a fireman handles a casualty really starts healing that casualty by the way he is handled, gently, with sensitivity and with knowledge. I mean, it all looks deceptively easy and deceptively simple. But every man there knows in a real situation, if he cuts through the wrong pipe in that car, he could have a fire. He could cut through the petrol pipe. He knows that the batteries aren't disconnected. An electric fire could quite easily get caused. He knows that there's probably spillages of petrol underneath those vehicles. He knows that the spark from the exhaust, which is already red hot from driving down the motorway, could easily ignite that petrol. You'll notice the fire appliance on the right-hand side. We call all our fire engines fire appliances, if you didn't know that already. We've used the fire appliance there, really, as a makeshift platform. It's moved into the bus and people have come down using the fire appliance, the roof of the fire appliance, to get them down. And it's a way of illustrating to you that the fire service use their equipment in many different ways, which you will see this afternoon. Rather unconventional ways at times, because that's part of being a fireman. That's what firemanship is about, knowing your equipment and using it sometimes in rather unusual ways. The police play an extremely important part on accidents like this. In fact, the police really we're dependent upon them many times for our own safety, because they've combed off the area. They've often got into operation on the other side of the incident to help us. So when you see an incident like this, you will always find the police and you will find the ambulance service, and we as an emergency services work completely and easily together with each other. As I say, there can be very traumatic road traffic accidents, particularly as the people in there will generally know each other and are often a family. And it's care and being sensitive to their injuries that enables those people to heal with the help of the dedicated service of the nurses and doctors back at the hospital. So the healing process, the caring process, is actually starting now with the way those firemen handle a casualty. Often you can spend maybe 10, 20 minutes talking to the casualty while they're being cut out. I mean, this is obviously a demonstration and everything's quickened up. But it's interesting from figures. The average person released from a road traffic accident, apparently the time taken is approximately 29 minutes. So a person can be inside a vehicle for quite a long time. And often your job is literally talking to that person, keeping them calm, and doing everything possible to show them that you are their friend and you're literally doing everything possible to help them and their family. So as I said, this is a basic hose drill. Two crews are going to run out 2 lines of hose to extinguish those 2 fires. And I stress, those 2 fires in front of you are quite small fires. They're purely for demonstration purposes only. It's quite difficult to run out hose. I mean, you wouldn't think, the skills that they've acquired enables them to do many things. But running out hose is certainly one of the quite difficult thing to do. It's very easy to get it wrong. Now you notice the crews now waiting for the water to come along their hose line, and the man always goes back along his hose line to the appliance. And it's important that he follows his hose line back, because at a large fire there could be maybe 5 or 6 different hose lines. And if you follow the wrong one back and ask the appliance to knock off the water or to put water on, you could actually be pressurizing the wrong hose line. So it's important. Also, another thing you notice that 2 men are needed to handle the jet on the end of the hose line. And you may not realize this, but water is extremely difficult to handle under pressure. It takes 2 men to do this. Water in a hose line can be extremely dangerous if the men at the end of the hose can't control that branch, which has a tendency to whip once the pressure gets into the line. And we're talking now about 6, 7, 8 bars pressure, so going up to something as high as 150 pounds per square inch. There was, unfortunately, some years ago, a fireman killed when a hose line got out of control. And it's so easy to happen, that's why you will always see 2 men at the end of the hose line there. Again, the men come back along the length of hose, making sure that the appliance that's feeding their particular jet is the one that they will turn off. And while you're feeding from the tank that is inside the appliance, you actually are linking up to a hydrant to supplement the supply that's already in your appliance tank. So literally, the reason that we have tanks of water inside our appliances is so that when we get to a fire, we can put water on it right away, because seconds really do count in a fire. A fire can spread to quite giant proportions in a few minutes, so the quicker we get there and the sooner we can get water on the fire, the sooner we can control it. Excellent, excellent. Now, what you're going to see is a slightly unconventional use of fire service equipment. All done within the bounds of safety and knowledge of equipment, but it's just a different way of using our fire service equipment. We can use ladders for many things. And also, at the back of the ladder, 2 ground monitors are being got to work. What you're going to see is a step ladder. We're going to use the existing fire service ladder and make it into a step ladder, and we'd use this kind of approach when we're sort of in the centre of a large factory and we wanted to work around the ceiling area. Now, you can't really pitch the ladder in the centre of a factory, so what you do, you create a step ladder, which are being got to work, and basically I'm sorry, I've been told there's just 1 ground monitor. I do apologise. Anyway, a ground monitor basically is a piece of equipment which has been designed to deliver large quantities of water. Now, I said to you before that the hose line is quite hard to handle with a branch on the end of it, which can produce, say, up to 150 gallons of water a minute. The ground monitor can go up to anything from 250 gallons to 1,000 gallons a minute, so you couldn't possibly handle a large ground monitor which is in the centre there. So a large ground monitor can produce up to 1,000 gallons of water a minute. No man could handle that, because the water energy produced by the pressure just is impossible to handle, and that's why you have a piece of equipment called a ground monitor that they'd want to use. So they could quite easily handle a situation in a large factory area where they wanted to work on any part of the roof. So they would just do something like that, create a step ladder. I mean, that's one of our smaller ladders. We can make step ladders out of much longer ladders, so you can get much higher. We've actually used ladders in conjunction with a salvage sheet, which is like a large piece of tarpaulin. We've actually used ladders to row equipment across mill lodges, made them literally using a ladder in a triangular shape, made them into a boat and put the tarpaulin around the ladder, and the ladders act as a former for a boat. And we've rowed equipment across the mill lodge just by using our existing fire service ladders and all the equipment that's carried on a fire appliance. What you're going to see now is a demonstration of two 13.5 meter ladders. These are the largest ladders that we carry on our appliances. They 13.5 meters, for those of us who can't really think metric, is approximately 46 feet. So both those ladders will extend to 46 feet, and metrically they weigh 100 kilograms, which is about 200 pounds. So they're quite heavy ladders to handle. And as I say, this is a drill demonstration, but you can imagine trying to get to work on a wet night, windy, raining, wet, and handling these ladders down through narrow buildings and alleyways, so the men can change around and perform any one of the different tasks needed to get that ladder, to extend and pitch that ladder. Again, safety is stressed. The shouting to tell them when the paws have been hit. Those are the pieces that lock and hold the ladder as it's extending. They're going to be counted down now for the last 4 rounds. All aimed at safety. Our job is dangerous enough without making mistakes with our own equipment, and this is why over and over again we stress and we train for the safe handling of equipment. This is basically a bread and butter drill, really. The first drill you saw, the hose drill, and this drill, these are the two bread and butter drills. These are the drills that you use automatically, almost without thinking, nearly every time you turn up at a fire. Again, it looks deceptively simple, but that's a very heavy piece of equipment to handle. And particularly in a cold day like this, the alloy can get really freezing cold, and it can be quite hard, quite difficult to touch at times. You can always get a frost burn from it and get so cold. All these commands are aimed at safety, keeping the team together and housing that ladder perfectly. And what you're going to see is a foam being put onto this. Now you can see it's quite a small fire, but in a real situation with just a moderate quantity of petroleum spirit on fire, it would be 20 or 30 times this size. So foam is the only thing that you could use really to put this fire out. I'm sorry if the smoke is blowing toward you, we can't really help this with the... So what we're going to see two types of foam being used. And you might be interested to know that foam really is you already use the water in your hose line, but what you do, you inject into